Hello and welcome. I'm Leigh-Ann Gerrans and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Arabiya studios. These are our top stories. Trump's top team are in Moscow as they conduct peace talks with Vladimir Putin. The death toll from the Indonesian floods rises above 700 as rescue workers continue to search affected areas. And documenting Diddy, Netflix releases the much-anticipated Reckoning of Sean Combs, produced by industry rival 50 Cent. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner are in Moscow today as the U.S. aims to end the war with Ukraine. It comes days after U.S. and Ukrainian delegates gathered in Florida to fine-tune the U.S.-backed peace plan, which has been viewed as favorable to Russia. Speaking ahead of the summit, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said the administration felt optimistic. Take a listen.
The president's entire team, including Special Envoy Witkoff and Secretary Rubio and the Vice President and the President himself, Secretary Hegseth as well, have been working so hard on this effort, and they all really want to see this war come to an end. This is sort of the shuttle diplomacy that you've seen from this administration play out, where we speak equally with both sides. We've put points on paper. Those points have been very much refined, but as for the details, I will let the negotiators negotiate, but we do feel quite good, and we're hopeful that this war can finally come to an end.
For more on this, I'm joined from Washington by Russia expert and senior fellow, the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, Anna Borshchevskaya. Anna, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. We actually heard from President Putin a little bit earlier saying if Europe wants to fight war, we are ready now. Is the Russian president saber-rattling ahead of key talks with Trump's top team?
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be on your show. Putin's comment illustrates precisely the situation where we're in, and that is that the Trump team very much wants a peace deal. Putin is in no hurry for a peace deal, and that is what he's signaling, while Ukraine is in a very tough spot. Now, is Putin simply saber-rattling? Well, partly yes, partly no. This is a negotiation tactic ahead of these talks, to be sure, to show that he's in no hurry. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just posturing. He really is in no hurry. He really can afford to fight, and he's willing to pay a very high price for it.
The mood music coming out of Kyiv is they are not ready to surrender. As you did say, they are in a difficult spot. So what happens if President Putin rejects the latest draft peace deal, like you do think he possibly will, Anna?
Well, the war will simply continue. This is make no mistake, this is a long game for Russia, and it is not simply about Ukraine alone. It is also about Europe and European security. That's why you see NATO talking increasingly in the last several weeks about the possibility of having to confront Russia in a much more assertive way than it had to. You see Germany talking about intelligence warnings that Russia may be ready to attack NATO by 2029 or even earlier. So this is where we are. Russia is not only interested in Ukraine. This is about a lot bigger. This is, frankly, a global war, and there's no pretending otherwise.
And should Europe, Anna, be really concerned at this stage? Because we have seen a lot of diplomacy going on ahead of Witkoff and Kushner heading to Moscow. And we did see NATO, Mark Rutte, actually speaking a little bit earlier today. The Europeans have come out in defense of Ukraine and managed to get this peace plan, well, the draft deal that seemed to be favorable to Russia, almost swing back to favor Ukraine. But do you think that Europe is now in a really tough spot, and in many ways the US doesn't trust them either?
Europe is indeed in a difficult situation as well, because Europe for too long had been unprepared for Russia's aggression. And now in these last few years, and especially last several months, we've seen Europe try to ramp up this effort. But Europe, the question of whether or not Europe is in fact ready to step up and do more on its own is indeed very much a question mark. And the fact that they are in this situation speaks volumes about the bigger picture that we're discussing here, about what we're witnessing here today. Why is it important? What this is really about? It's not just about another hasty peace plan. It is about a war that is the defining war of our generation, and its outcome is going to affect the way we live.
And Russia said before the talks with the US it had fully captured the city of Pokrovsk. Ukraine is denying this. Do you think it's a way of Russia using this as a negotiation tactic again, a little bit like saying we're ready for war with Europe, just basically to show the US we have the upper hand on the battlefield, we can keep going, all the chips are ours?
Well, it is in part certainly a negotiation tactic, but it's not. But again, it's not just all smoke and mirrors. Russia really can afford to keep this going for at least the near future, despite the fact that their economy is under strain. The Russian military-industrial complex is actually continued to innovate. The Wall Street Journal reported over the weekend that that Russia is draining an upper hand in terms of drone warfare over Ukraine. So it is both. It is both a tactics. It is posturing, but it's not just posturing. Russia really is not in a hurry. They are prepared to fight. And the way, and this brings back to the main issue, and that is, are we really going to have peace? And what Ukraine worries about, what Europeans worry about, is that a deal that favors Russia is simply not going to be a peace deal. A capitulation to Russia will not bring peace. It will not bring security. And that's why we still don't know the main details of the latest plan. It is certainly different, but the details have yet to be revealed. And if there are no genuine security guarantees for Ukraine, if Russia refuses to withdraw troops, simply put, this will not be peace.
And Vladimir Zelenskyy, he is in Ireland today as he continues his charm offensive with European allies. We're just talking about President Putin accusing Europe of hindering the US administration and Trump to reach peace talks, to reach peace through talks. Anna, I guess the big question here is, what happens next?
Well, we have to wait and see what's going to be the outcome of today's meeting. Again, given the evolution of the 28-point peace plan that we saw, that was in terms of what was reported publicly, was a complete capitulation to Russia. It is now amended. Ukraine is now at a negotiating table. Europeans are now involved. But again, we don't know what's going to happen. And given the fact that the cost of fighting the war for Russia is still not high enough that they want to make genuine concessions, you know, it's hard to be optimistic, but we'll have to wait and see. Either we will have some sort of a peace deal, and then we have to decide, is this really a peace deal or just a pause in the war, or the fighting will simply continue.
And just before I let you go, Anna, we're talking a lot about Europe, and Zelenskyy has been in Europe and has constant dialogue with European officials. Can Europe keep affording to fund Ukraine?
That is very much a question, and that goes back to the question of, is Europe really prepared? Europe, in theory, could step up more and could do more, but at least in the short term. For example, one thing we saw, it was after Russia's testing of NATO airspace several weeks ago, Denmark, for its part, said that it might need to limit ammunition that it gives to Ukraine and some other aid because it's going to prioritize its own defenses, because Russia is testing NATO. So whether or not Europe is prepared, whether or not it is ready to do more, time will tell.
Anna Borshchevskaya, thank you so much for joining us. For more on this, I'm joined from Moscow by Director of the Institute of Political Studies and former public spokesman for President Putin, Sergei Markov. Sergei, always good to have you on the show. So we did hear from President Putin a little bit earlier, who says if Europe wants to fight war, we are ready now. Is Russia encouraging a confrontation with European countries? And why is it so angry with them?
Russia angry about European behavior because of few reasons. One, Vladimir Putin directly told us this because Europe now is the main political force who is stopping peace process. It's three main enemies of the peace: European Union, Great Britain, and Vladimir Zelenskyy personally. We know that Ukrainian people want peace very much, but Zelenskyy, this is highly corrupted, illegal leader of Ukrainian neo-colonial regime. He doesn't want the peace anyway. But Europe played very important role by supporting this uncorrupted, highly corrupted dictator Zelenskyy, and by stopping peace process. It's first. Secondly, Europe support terroristic methods which used by Ukrainian regime, including pirates attacks against tankers, oil tankers. It's everybody. It's clear for everybody. That's exactly Ukrainian intelligence service attacking this tanker. This is pirate operation, and Europe. What Europe doing? Silently supported. And Vladimir Putin told that if this pirate attack against ship will continue, we will think about possibility to give strong response, not just Ukrainian regime, but to those countries which support those pirate attacks against our oil tankers. So it's the main.
So, Sergei, what's quite interesting is that we did hear from Putin, and he did talk about the piracy when it came to the attacks on tankers near Turkey. However, that hasn't been clarified by anyone. I just want to make that clear. So he's laying the blame on Ukraine and the Europeans, but no one is 100% sure who those tankers did attack. But I just want to move on and ask you, what is President Putin thinking regarding this meeting with Trump's top team? Earlier, he made it clear Russia has no interest in stopping the strikes on facilities and Ukrainian vessels. So what's the point of this meeting if they don't want to end the war, Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, I'm very sorry, but all of our audience, I think everybody, 100% sure that this pirate attack against Russian oil tankers have been organized by Ukrainian forces. Everybody sure about this. Yes, there are no evidence, yes, but it's their enemies.
But there's no evidence, Sergei, and I think it's important for me to make the point. There's no evidence that Ukraine did attack these ships, so it's important that that point is made. We've heard it from Vladimir Putin, but it's not been verified.
Yeah. But nevertheless, again, everybody 100% sure that it's Ukrainian authorities. And about Putin. First of all, Putin very like these people come with some specific plan, because we had about 28-point plan, 19-point plan, 24 plans, with a lot of plans. Now we want to have something specific, which will be on the table and what could be discussed. It's first. Secondly, Putin and the general Russian public support that idea that Donald Trump really want to stop this war and want to encourage such kind of negotiation. We trust Trump, but we don't trust Zelenskyy. We don't trust Europeans. If Zelenskyy told that this plan is good, it looks like that its plan is bad, not plan of peace, because Zelenskyy main enemy of the peace, because during the peace he will lose his presidential position and will be under investigation because of corruption and another deal. So we have not so big enthusiasm, but some steps forward to start to start this point. It's very important. And Russian demands to this peace plan, very simple, absolutely simple. We want peace plan will create peace for the many years. But it will be not just ceasefire, which will be used by NATO countries for preparing Ukrainian army for the more bloody and intensive war.
So, Sergei, I just wanted to say to you, it's really interesting that you say to me that Russia is prepared to stop the war and it wants to stop the war, but it's everyone else, like Ukraine and the Europeans, who don't. Because I want to read out some statistics to you. So analysis by AFP, the news agency, said Russia escalated its drone and missile attacks on Ukraine throughout November, according to analysis that they have. And let me repeat to you what Putin said earlier. He said that they are willing to go to war. He says, if Europe wants to fight, we are ready now. So that doesn't sound like peace to me. That sounds like Russia knows that it's on the front foot and that Steve Witkoff does favor a pro-Russian agenda, and that many analysts have said that. So Russia think we can just keep fighting. We can just keep killing people.
Yeah. But we have Russian proverb. I think this proverb exists in every country. If you really want peace, you should be prepared to the war. Because in another, you will be not prepared. Sometimes you will be attacked by some aggressors. It's exactly what Putin told. We want to have peace with Europe. But if Europe will continue its escalation and come to aggression against Russia, we will give quite a strong response to the Europe. And Putin also mentioned many times, we don't fight for territories. We use this special military operation as pressure for resolving political issues. This political issue means that Ukraine should be not used by NATO for preparation of aggression against Russia. It means rocket missiles shouldn't stay in the Ukraine with 4 minutes flight timing to kill people in Moscow and St. Petersburg. And another thing, Russian language, which is native language for the 70% of Ukrainian population, should be prohibited. No political repression against Russian language, no political repression against Orthodox Church, which is church of the 80% of the Ukrainian population, no political repression against those Ukrainian people who believe that Russia and Ukraine should be in peace. So it's very simple demand. And neutrality of Ukraine is guarantee that this territory will be not used for aggression against Russia. You know, I'm a little surprised. Somebody reasonably with normal mind can be against these demands. Who normal, who really want peace, could be against stopping political repression against the language of the majority, or okay, at least half of the country. Who really want to be against the so-called Austrian model, which Russia suggested to the Ukraine? Neutrality in constitution of the country and neutrality also as a result of the international treaty.
Sergei, I'm sorry, we are slowly running out of time. I don't have long left with you. We are up, but I want to ask you a question, and you have 30 seconds to answer me, so short and sweet. Is Russia going to sign a deal today to end this war or no? Yes or no?
Russia won't, but I think it will be not able, because such a position which guarantees that will be peace, but not ceasefire and preparation to the war, I think this peace deal will not have.
Okay, Sergei Markov, it's always good to have you on the show, as always. Thank you so much. The recent floods in Indonesia have killed over 700 people as rescue workers continue to search affected areas. Around 1 million people have now been evacuated, with thousands cut off and without critical supplies. Thailand, Malaysia and Sri Lanka have also been affected by cyclones and storms. For more on this, I'm joined from Jakarta by reporter Divyanti Faritz. Divyanti, thank you so much for your time this evening. So, as I just mentioned, the death toll in Indonesia has now passed 700, but hundreds of people are still missing following those floods. What is the latest on the rescue efforts in the country?
The National Disaster Mitigation Agency said around 1 million have been evacuated. Rescuers have used ships and helicopters to deliver critical supplies and food to the survivors. K9 units were deployed to find any remains. According to the government's disaster agency, around 1.5 million people have been impacted across 3 Indonesian provinces that were hardest hit. Witnesses described the floodwaters like a tsunami, with rivers overflowing with debris, mud, and timber hitting homes as it swept down the slopes. Aid workers have been trying to reach people on foot and by motorcycle, as many roads remain impassable to larger vehicles. Leigh-Ann?
And, you know, it's really interesting because I want to talk to you a little bit about what caused the floods, which, as you said, hit 3 provinces in Indonesia. What more do we know about the cause?
Oh, well, 3 Indonesian provinces, including Aceh, North Sumatra, and West Sumatra, were impacted the most, with thousands cut off from electricity and critical supplies. North Sumatra had the highest death toll, with almost 300 people. Although torrential rain due to monsoon and cyclones hitting the Southeast Asian region was the main factor, environmental activist groups and a hydrologist from Gajah Mada University suspect massive land floods, or landslides, I should say, that killed hundreds of people were caused by extensive clearing of land for agricultural use, especially for palm oil plantations. Leigh-Ann?
And, you know, critics say that authorities in Indonesia were not well prepared for the floods. What is the public mood right now following this disaster? And as you said to me, it's impacted 1.5 million people, and we're talking about these deadly landslides and people still unaccounted for.
Indonesians are devastated at this horrible tragedy. Videos of flash floods with mud and piles of logs killing hundreds in its path have awoken the traumatic memories of the Aceh tsunami in 2004. However, this time, the government has not declared the flash floods and landslides in Sumatra as a national disaster, saying that the provisional governments can still handle the situation. Many are still waiting for food, with some saying they haven't eaten in 2 or 3 days. I personally know people who had to brave walking through floodwaters to access electricity to charge their mobile phones, while many others had to spend days before they can call home to say they were safe. Some people are frustrated at bureaucratic red tape slowing down humanitarian aid. Leigh-Ann?
Divyanti, that is so sad, and I hope that everyone you know is now safe. But I just wanted to ask you, Indonesia is just one part of Asia which has actually been hit with torrential rain and storms in the recent days. Which other countries were impacted by this?
Indonesia was just one of the countries hit by the torrential rain and storms. Other countries include Thailand, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, which also reported deaths. The floods were caused by a northeast monsoon and the effects of Cyclone Senyar over the Malacca Strait and Cyclone Ditwa in Sri Lanka, bringing plenty of moisture from the sea before it made landfall and wreaking havoc across Southeast Asia and South Asia.
Divyanti Faritz, I really hope that everyone you know is safe and well. And thank you so much for your time and for joining me today from Jakarta. Let's take a look at some of the other stories making the headlines today. Israeli forces have shot and killed 2 Palestinians accused in separate attacks that wounded 3 Israelis in the occupied West Bank. The military says one man stabbed 2 soldiers near the Thiret settlement, while another, a 17-year-old from Hebron, was killed after what Israel calls a car ramming attack. Meanwhile, Hamas is handing over the remains of one of the last 2 hostages. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says the country is ready to defend itself, accusing Washington of psychological terrorism as the U.S. considers a possible land attack. This comes shortly after President Trump confirmed he spoke to Maduro recently, though details of the call do remain unclear. The U.S. has carried out strikes on boats it believes were carrying drugs, killing more than 80 people. Pope Leo has wrapped up his first overseas trip with a mass in Beirut, which attracted over 150,000 people. His visit was intended to signal a message of hope to a country still reeling from the 2020 port explosion and its war with Israel. And the White House has been given a festive makeover. First Lady Melania Trump revealed the Christmas decorations in an online video with the theme "Home is where the heart is." The display also pays tribute to the next year's 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Hong Kong is launching an independent probe into the cause of last week's deadly inferno in the apartment complex in the Tai Po district. Its leader, John Lee, is calling for reform as officials believe substandard renovation materials may have fueled the blaze, which killed more than 150 people. Chris Gilbert reports.
It's been a week since the Diddley Wang Fuk caught fire, and Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee is promising change.
We will overcome the obstacles of vested interests, pursue accountability. We must uncover the truth, ensure that justice is served, let the deceased rest in peace, and provide comfort to the living.
The blaze was one of the deadliest in Hong Kong's history. The government is pointing the finger at a construction company that was renovating the buildings, accusing them of using substandard materials. Authorities say that tests have found several types of mesh used on bamboo scaffolding did not meet fire retardant standards. 25 people have been arrested in the investigation so far. At least 3 are from the construction company. A 24-year-old student, Miles Kwan, was released by police on Monday after being arrested for handing out flyers petitioning for an independent inquiry over the weekend. John Lee says the government's anti-corruption unit will be part of the new probe.
We must act seriously to ensure that all these loopholes are plugged so that those who are responsible will be accountable. The shortcomings will be addressed. The bottlenecks will be addressed. And we will reform the whole building renovation system to ensure that such thing will not happen again.
On Tuesday, the plaza below the burned-out towers was flooded with flowers and tributes. In Chinese culture, the one-week anniversary marks the Day of the Soul's return. Mourners stay to pray, leave notes, and reflect on the devastating loss. On top of the death toll, 40 people remain missing. Police continue to sweep the 7 towers, finding the bodies of residents in stairwells and on rooftops of those trapped as they tried to escape the flames. Chris Gilbert, Arabiya English.
Now, Netflix have released the much-anticipated Diddy documentary produced by longtime rival and rapper 50 Cent. Sean Combs' The Reckoning features footage that was filmed just 6 days before the former music mogul's arrest in September 2024. Combs is currently serving a 4-year prison sentence after being found guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. Here's a clip of what we can expect from that show.
We have to find somebody that'll work with us. Dirtiest of dirty business. We're losing.
Puff Daddy,
Sean Combs' name changes are attached at deeds. Who's your side? We have to find somebody that'll work with us. Dirtiest of dirty business. We're losing. Puff Diddy, Sean Combs' name changes are attached at deeds. Who's your side? We have to find somebody that'll work with us. Dirtiest of dirty business. We're losing.
For more on this, I'm joined by entertainment lawyer Kurt Dahl. Kurt, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I think everyone has been waiting pretty much for this Netflix docuseries on Diddy. Quite a turn of events here. A documentary, actually, on P. Diddy, produced by his well-known enemy, of course, that's 50 Cent. Did Diddy or his lawyers have any kind of say on this release?
Well, thanks for having me. And generally speaking, no. I mean, Diddy wouldn't have legal veto over a documentary about himself. In North America, and especially the U.S., journalists and filmmakers have broad First Amendment protections to tell a story about a public figure. So you don't need someone's permission to profile them or criticize them. But as we'll get into, he may have legal standing if the documentary uses footage that Diddy owns himself, because that would be a violation of copyright.
And the trailer actually went live yesterday and it's available to stream today. Was there ever any doubt that a cease and desist notice would deter that from happening? Because Diddy didn't really want this released, did he?
Yeah, exactly. And no, a cease and desist rarely stops a major studio or platform at this stage. You know, Netflix would have reviewed the legal risk months ago, and they look for chain of title, rights clearances, defamation vetting, and then insurance coverage. And, that's all been done months ago. So a cease and desist is more strategic at this point, as it sort of preserves Diddy's legal position and signals that a lawsuit is on the table.
And as we all know, Diddy is currently serving his 4-year jail term. And I was just thinking, do you reckon that Diddy is going to watch this series himself just to see what it's all about? Because there's been some footage in there. I watched a few bits and pieces, and it's pretty damning. And is there any grounds for him to sue 50 Cent or consider defamation when he does leave prison or while he's inside?
Yeah, I mean, as to is he going to watch it? I mean, I can't imagine he would not watch it. I mean, if someone made such a documentary on me, I would surely watch it. And even if he is incarcerated, he can still sue for defamation if he believes that the documentary, falsely damages his reputation, right? So, and public figures have a higher legal threshold. They must actually prove actual malice, meaning the filmmakers knew the content was false or they acted with a reckless disregard for the truth. So it's a steep hill to climb, which is why most celebrity defamation lawsuits fail. But I mean, I imagine that's forthcoming. He's going to watch it and probably get his lawyers involved.
I must say something. I would hate watching myself on screen in something like that. Anyway, I'm sure Diddy will. But can you just imagine? It's not the best portrayal. But what was also interesting is 2 jurors from the trial actually spoke during this docuseries. They both had pretty different views on Diddy after the case, which I found really interesting. How often does that happen, that jurors come out afterwards and actually speak? Or is this because this is a huge celebrity, unprecedented case?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think it probably, they were approached. I feel like this is the case of the year, if not the decade. So I think it's not that common, but I think in this situation, it's because it was such a high profile case.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to hear what they said, and especially about Cassie Ventura, because remember, we saw those videos and they were absolutely shocking, but once again, wasn't done, Diddy, on domestic abuse. But just finally, do you think we could see Diddy releasing his own tell-all story once he's a free man, despite being a convicted felon, with many of the victims still demanding justice? Because we can't forget, at one point, Kurt, I don't know if you agree with me, but Diddy was pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. I mean, I think there's a high likelihood that he will, release his own documentary one day. I mean, even if he is a convicted felon, it doesn't bar someone from telling his own story. The bigger challenge won't be legality. It'll be public perception. Does the public want to see or hear his side of the story? I mean, I would say the answer is no right now, but I mean, you also see I see people online defending him. So my guess is he's probably has the money to be able to put out his own documentary, and I think he's the kind of person that will want to tell his story, whether that's right or wrong. So my guess is that is forthcoming.
And, it's so interesting, right? Because we know 50 Cent, and for decades in the industry, both of them have what is called, beef. I don't know what you call it. They don't really like each other. 50 Cent's always spoken out about Diddy and always had accusations against him and raised concerns about him in the world of hip hop. Do you think that this can definitely be something that's impartial and delivered well to show both sides?
Yeah, good question. I mean, you're right. It's an ongoing beef. I mean, just like Drake and Kendrick Lamar. I mean, when you're in such a beef, can you be objective and impartial? I don't know. If this documentary is able to be those things, it's because I would guess his team involved, whoever's directing it or editing it, they would be the ones that bring that impartiality. But I can't imagine 50 Cent himself is impartial here. I mean, it's a years-long feud, right?
And I just want to ask a quick question, a bit of a fun one. I was reading something on Diddy a little bit earlier today, and apparently he's trying to get good marks in prison and bought everybody Thanksgiving dinner. Do you think that's going to help the cause?
I don't do. I'm not a criminal lawyer, so I don't know what that will result in. But I mean. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm an entertainment lawyer. I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I would say at the end of the day, I mean, I guess it has an impact on everyone in the jail. So maybe that'll help him, or maybe he's just trying to not get beat up in jail. I don't know.
One of those two things for sure. Kurt Dahl, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's take a look at the top business news now. India has ordered all new smartphones to come preloaded with a non-removable and state-run cybersecurity app. Users will be able to verify the authenticity of a device, report lost or stolen phones and flag fraud. Cyber experts have criticized the move, saying it violates the right to privacy. E-commerce giant Shein and Temu are facing intellectual property theft and forced labor accusations in the US. The two US politicians have called for the government to investigate the sale of counterfeit goods sold by the two firms. The probe comes after the EU claimed that Temu was exporting products that do not comply with the bloc standards. Turning to all the sports news now, and FIFA will reveal the updated match schedule for the 2026 World Cup at live global broadcast on Saturday. The FIFA president will present alongside former players and representatives from the 42 teams that have already qualified. Last week, Iran said they would boycott the draw after the US denied visas for some of their delegation. And the boxer Alexander Usyk has named Deontay Wilder as the first option for his next fight. Usyk became the undisputed world heavyweight champion for a second time after his win over Daniel Dubois earlier this year. Wilder, meanwhile, lost a trilogy to Tyson Fury and had consecutive losses to Joseph Parker, and that was back in 2023. A reminder of our top stories. Trump's top team are in Moscow as they conduct peace talks with Vladimir Putin. The death toll from the Indonesian floods rises above 700 as rescue workers continue to search affected areas. And documenting Diddy, Netflix released the much-anticipated reckoning of Sean Combs, produced by his industry rival 50 Cent. And that's all from us on W News. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also follow us on X. Counterpoints is coming up next with Melinda Nusafora. Have a nice evening. And of course, we'll be back in a couple of hours' time with W News Extra. Goodbye and thank you for joining us.